Hello friends, welcome to another video. My name is Luke Stevens. This is going to be a fun one.
Or potentially a very frustrating and annoying one.
That's sort of depressing. We're going to find out together. A month or two back, I made a video where we played through a big patch for Cyberpunk 2077, looked at it, breaking it down to see if any patches had actually been made, if the game actually ran better, because the whole idea was that the game was markedly improved. Everybody was trying it, talking very positively about it, and we tried it with mixed results. But now cdprojektred has released patch 1.5, which allegedly has huge improvements for the console versions, some improvements for the PC version, a bunch of added DLC, the ability to buy apartments, all sorts of stuff. Seems interesting. So I decided to take a break from Elden Ring, give my brain a break, and just try Cyberpunk 2077 again. For the record, I primarily played on PC back at launch, and for the 5-hour critique video I did, apparently most of the fixes are being felt on console. So we're gonna try it on PS5 first and foremost. Then we'll try it on PC, see if we notice any sort of differences in stability, and we'll go from there. But with that, we're gonna get into it. Make sure to like the video, it really does help, and subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of new uploads. We've got some critiques coming for Ghost of Tsushima. We've got videos like this coming, video essays, tons of stuff. Again, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified for when those go live. Okay, so here we are. This is the latest patch on PS5.
Well, goes for you too.
I mean, this looks good. Okay, haptic feedback. So it does have adaptive trigger support. So you do feel resistance on the triggers when you're scoping, and when you fire, you can feel the trigger give away. It feels better than I expected. It's not quite on the level like Cold War had really good adaptive trigger support. Jackie, sup, bro?
Holy shit, V. I wasn't sure we'd walk out in one piece.
The game looks really good.
How things looking, Miss V?
Graphically, it's way better. They have smoothed out a lot of the rough edges. Let's see. So this motorcycle's just sitting here. So like Jackie just rode off this way, and I think when he rounded that corner, he despawned, but the bike didn't. And now the bike is just sitting here and you can't get on it. So there's still some issues there. In terms of the presentation, much better. I'll give him credit. Much better. The question I think at the heart of this whole evaluation we're doing right now is whether or not Cyberpunk can actually be saved, and if they can get like kind of what the end goal is, because it seems to me what they're trying to do is get the game to the point where it should have been on launch day, where it's playable and it's stable, so you can get from the beginning to the end without any major issues. You can experience the game and the world they've put forward, because at launch, straight up, a lot of people couldn't. This is a notable step in that direction. Already I can feel there have been many improvements to just the dynamism, the fact that there are so many characters that are walking around. The city feels more alive already to begin with. He's got a headlight out. Oh, I don't have the control. Can I just shoot it out? Sure can. Sure can. Fact check true. Ooh, adaptive trigger support on the vehicles. Now, Nikki, my wife, was saying that the driving is where she felt the most issues, because there's still a lot of pop-in, there's still a lot of issues graphically when you drive quickly. It still didn't feel very good to her. Now, I will say, from my perspective, the actual driving feels better. I think it's much more of a simulated driving than it is like realism. But this car feels like you're driving a tank, and it looks like a tank, so that explains it. I mean, it looks very heavy. In terms of pop-in so far, if we look in the distance where most people's eyes will be drawn while they're driving, there is some, so like those lights just popped up as we went. As we round this corner, we'll see what pops in. We got two vehicles. We have some vehicles popping in the distance, but nothing I would say that's egregious. That's all pretty par for the course when it comes to these games. And I mean, in general, I think it's running pretty well. Bear in mind, at launch, if I did this, my character would be spawning outside of the car fully naked. So this is a big step up. The next thing I want to try are these NPCs, because apparently they've made improvements to the AI and to the dynamic response of police to crimes that are reported. because that was one of the major issues people had at launch. So we can see people walking the streets just doing their thing. They're investigating a dead body here. So they had some systems like this at launch, but they never really worked properly. What about these people? Hey guys, how you doing? NPC. Hi. Good to see you, man. Why are you looking at me like that? Are we doing this? Are we doing this? No, we weren't. Okay, I misread the situation. They one-shotted me. Fair. I punched a man with a ball gag. The reason I think it's noble of them to keep working on this is, for one, they're trying to deliver on the original thing that they promised, which is awesome. I love that. I'm glad to see that they're taking those steps, because I do think there's something to be said. It's a matter of integrity, of pride, of doing the right thing, which is fixing the game and delivering the product that they promised to customers, and to be honest, should have delivered day one. Secondly, if they could pull off a No Man's Sky style comeback where they introduce an online mode, where they introduce tons of new missions, where this whole city turns into a living, breathing world where you can buy real estate and investments and all of this stuff, I'd be all for it. I think that would be amazing. It's got a long way to go before it gets there, but they're trying to get there. And that, I think, is noble in and of itself, because what most of us were afraid of is that they would release this sort of broken ass game that's barely holding together. They would take the money and just run. And they very easily could have done that and just said, you know what, the game is broken as hell. We're just going to move on to The Witcher 4. And I don't think anybody could have blamed them, because the game was so broken. And even now, you can fix some of these bugs, but the game is what the game is. And that's, I think, perhaps the important thing to remember with this. They can polish, they can refine the graphics, they can make all of this run and look way better. It's still Cyberpunk 2077. So if you had issues with the core design of the gameplay loop, the design of quest structure, things like that, that's not going to change. Sure, they're introducing some new stuff, but it's nothing revolutionary. Which, I mean, for some people is going to be great, because they were kind of hoping that they would just get a new and improved version of the base game that they already liked. Did he clip into it? He did. He clipped into it. It's like that right there. That is something where it's it's kind of silly. He clipped into the garage door, and he got unstuck eventually. Those little things pull you out of the world. They pull you out of the experience, and they add up. You know, some people obviously can just turn their mind off to it. I missed every single shot. Some people can turn their minds off to it. I'm one of those people that I struggle with it. It pulls me out. I lose immersion. It affects my time with the game in a very negative way. That won't be true for everybody. So if you're one of those players where this level of thing just doesn't affect you and it's not that bad, great. No big issue. Enjoy it. So I'm not sure what the end game is right now for Cyberpunk 2077. They're obviously still working on it. They're doing big patches. I'm not sure if they intend to still follow through on an online mode with multiplayer and everything, trying to turn this basically into Grand Theft Auto Online, but Cyberpunk Online. If they can pull that off, I think it could be amazing. The idea that you could just have tons of friends in here, own real estate, I think that could be amazing. But as it stands, that wouldn't work. And the question, I think, at the core that they're probably playing with right now is whether or not it's worth spending all the time to get this game to that point, or if they just hold off until they release whatever the sequel to Cyberpunk is. We will try it on PC and see what full ray tracing everything looks like if they've really polished the whole experience from beginning to end for all of these platforms. Because right now, playing this, absolutely, I think, playing on PS5, you'll be a happy camper. I have no doubt whatsoever. It's already, I can tell you, way better than it was last time we tried it on patch 1.27 or 2.3, whatever it was. Way better already than that one. I said it in the last video, I'll say it again here. Whenever I go back to Cyberpunk, I'm sort of depressed. It's kind of a bummer for me, because look at this city. Look at this. Everything about this is fascinating and beautiful and captivating. You want to get to know this city well.
Maybe you should marry that thing since you love it so much.
It's just so frustrating that the game doesn't let you get to know this city as well as it should. If they could pull this off where, you know, you can go in all these buildings and you can explore all of this stuff, it would be one of the greatest sandbox games of all time. Like, utterly amazing, because the world building they've done here is second to none. But that's not easy to do. It's really hard. In fact, it's very difficult to pull that off. And you can't just throw these things together. I know that like Rockstar makes it look relatively easy, but those games take a decade to make. Even then, they feel like 10 years out of date on launch. So it's not as easy as they make it look. But that's not an excuse for releasing a broken game. Like, having ambition is great, but if you can't live up to that ambitious vision, you need to adjust your ambition. You need to adjust that vision. So, oh, well, that was weird. So like right there, some of the tracks from the car are floating in the air. Very little. 99% of people probably won't notice and won't care at all. But if you're like trying to help the audience get immersed, that's going to have an impact. This is like where Cyberpunk really excels, is this ambient lighting. Look at that. This is running on console. Did you feel like the main story was too short in terms of the actual story and not missions? Because it felt like that for me, like something was missing. Yeah, I mean, I didn't like the premise that you are like destined to die from the beginning. I just didn't like it. It made it so you had a reason not to play the main story because you didn't want to see everything end, understandably. So I just didn't like that premise in the story. As for it being shorter, that was very intentional on their part, because they did a survey of everybody who played The Witcher 3 and found that the overwhelming majority of people who played The Witcher 3 never finished the main story. So they tweaked it and made the main story in Cyberpunk really short. With like, I think 25, 30 hours, somewhere between there. Much longer if you do side content, which I think a lot of people will do since there's so much incentive to avoid doing the main story because it will just inevitably lead to your death. Still, like, I don't know, just because not everybody finished the main story, I don't think that's necessarily a problem. A lot of people I know have played Skyrim for years and have never seen the credits roll because they just do everything else and they don't want it to end, so they don't play the main story. And I think that's okay. Same with like Elden Ring. A lot of people are going to play Elden Ring for dozens of hours and never see the credits. And I think that's actually okay. The whole point of a game is to play it. And if you play a game for dozens of hours and have a good time, who cares if you saw some arbitrary end to it? Especially for something like this. Now, for something like The Last of Us Part 2, yeah, you need to play the epilogue. You need to play through the whole story. Red Dead Redemption 2, yeah, I think you should play the epilogue because that's one story and it's primarily a narrative experience. For something like this, I think it's okay to kind of meander a little. If we evaluate, it's running way, way better. Already I can see major improvements in terms of polish, overall experience, just even the controls. Driving feels smoother to me. Nikki obviously disagreed, but to me it feels markedly better. I would say, like, if you haven't finished Cyberpunk 2077, if you've been holding off and you have a next-gen console, this patch is the time to jump in. I didn't expect to say that. I expected it to still be kind of broken and busted, but this is way, way better. PS5, thumbs up. Stamp of approval. Let's try the PC port because we were having issues there last time, and apparently that's where the least number of fixes have been implemented. So let's see if that makes any difference at all. So on PC, boom, changes in 1.5. I will say this was one of the most frustrating things in the base game. Like, you are in the land of augmentation. Look at this chick right next to me. She is like decked out, custom everything. And you couldn't do the same thing in the original game, which was baffling. So this, if you guys watched the last video we did where we tried the Cyberpunk patch, this is the exact save where we left off. We were up on this bridge. Already I can tell you the cars are driving more consistently. It looks like the actual draw distance is farther. The rain seems more evenly spread. It's not randomly stopping at places. Let's see if the texture maps are consistent throughout, because last time they were kind of bugged in certain sections of the road. For real, guys, this is running at 70 with ultra everything, ray traced reflections, local shadows. The game did not perform anywhere near this well on the last patch. The specular maps from the rain and the reflections there are consistent. The rain stops under the bridge and it gets shiny again out from under the bridge. That's way improved. Before it was just rainy everywhere or glitched out everywhere. Already in like 30 seconds, I can see it running way better. There's still, so you can see like as we drive the kind of circle of LOD like on that road right there, if you see that. Because right here, as you see we drive, look in this top left corner, you see that shift as the field of view changes. I'd say that's an issue. I'd say that would need to be adjusted and fixed. But I think when you're driving not on ramps, you probably won't notice it. Like here, as we're driving, it's still doing it way in the distance, but you can't really see. Nothing I would say that's game breaking, especially compared to how the game ran before. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. Let's see if we can buy an apartment. Let's see if we can do that. Because that's been, already way better. This is way less toxic than it was before. It was just like red glowing everything. How do we buy an apartment? On a high-end PC, this is just about one of the most graphically impressive games you probably will ever experience. It's just straight up crazy. No game has come close to how beautiful ray tracing is implemented in this game. At least on PC. On console, I think it leaves a bit to be desired, but on PC, gee whiz, man. This is where you see the real vision of Cyberpunk 2077. This is where it is. Okay, so this is the apartment. This is all we can afford. I gotta say, it's a beautiful car, beautiful car. Okay, so this is the apartment. $5,000 to rent the apartment. Authentically functional. It's not cramped. It's cozy. Higa. Higa means happiness. Higa means cozy. That's like a whole song in the Broadway version of Frozen. I know that because my wife loves Frozen. I gotta say, I kind of love the plastic. The hanging plastic. I don't know why I find it so satisfying to walk through it, but I really do. It's just satisfying. So we got our stash, we got our workbench, we got our computer, we got our bed. Go to sleep. That's what I do when I need to sleep. And I heard they patched it so now you sleep laying the correct way on the bed. Because when the game launched, you laid down like awkwardly sideways. It looked so stupid. Everyone was like, why, how did that possibly get past QA? But it was just because it was so low on the priority list. Oh wait, we were gonna test AI. Okay, let's try scoping him, see if he freaks out. He somehow knew I scoped up even though his back was to me. That's okay though. Okay, I'll let you go. He's tracking me. His eyes are following me. That's good. Just turn around and walk away. Okay. Guns still feel pretty good. Like, I'm still baffled. This is full ultra ray tracing everything. Last time when we tried to do this, we were capping at like 40, 45 frames whenever we tried to run all this. And this, like, sprinting through, we're not seeing major frame drops. It's steady. And sure, you can be like, well, it's PC. You should be getting better than 60. This is 60 with full ray tracing. Like, literally the max ray tracing you could possibly do. We are currently running. And it's running this smoothly. Double trouble. I hit the one guy. Sorry. We're judging police response. So far, it's just the bots. So this already feels much more realistic. They're all coming from one direction. It sort of feels fair. I know that's very arbitrary, but it doesn't feel like the classic thing where just 15 different armored vehicles come out of nowhere. Okay, let's try getting in a car and running away. So this car feels like you're driving on ice. This one feels less good. Or the body of the car doesn't follow the front wheels. We escaped. Okay, so previously there was an issue where like it both felt totally unfair and also totally unrealistic how the police responded, because sometimes they would just show up out of absolutely nowhere and it would be kind of a minuscule response for killing like 10 different police officers. And then other times it was like you bumped into a pedestrian and then all of the world's forces descend on you at once. Shoot at the water. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like there's any effect tied to it. Let's see. Okay, so close there is. Look at this. We're facing down, and in the reflection of the water, you can see under the bridge. That's ray tracing for you. Let's try a nade. Okay, that's funny. Oh, look at that. Okay, boom. The blast grenades have a much bigger effect in the water than the previous ones did. So it's actually an added attention to detail that there's a difference between the grenades, a difference in effect. Oh! Yes, okay. Okay, it kicked us out. Bubbles are rising from the car as the air leaves it. Can we drive it back out? No. The cars sink now. Okay, all of these. Okay, we have to test one more thing. It's what we did in the last video. We have to see how the NPCs handle when you follow them around. So we're gonna follow this guy around. I love his shorts. So last time, if you missed it, what happened when we followed people around is that they walked pretty much in circles, and then if you turned your back on them, after a few minutes, they would despawn and just disappear, and your best friend would be lost forever. So we're going to give this about a minute or two of following them around. This is one of those tests, to be fair. It really has no impact on the total quality of the game. Like, as long as they're not despawning live. So like this, he was over there on that sidewalk, and he crossed, and then crossed to walk over here instead of just crossing this way. Again, is that a major issue? I wouldn't say so, because again, 99.999% of people are just going to run through the intersection and go about their day. They're not following NPCs around. You know, like this is not something that actually has that big of an impact. He's having a good time. He's pretty far away from his spawn point, which is back there, but he's staying spawned even as he gets far away from his spawn point. And he's going on a pretty long walk. We run away, we turn around, he's still there, we run away this way, turn around, he's still there. Way better. Yeah, who dressed this man? Like, who wears those shorts and thinks that's a good idea? So that's cool. I would consider this a win. They fixed that. That's pretty cool. So all told, like, buying the apartments is cool. Do I think that actually adds anything to the experience? Probably not. I mean, it helps with immersion because you can get your own place, but I wouldn't say that makes or breaks anything. The NPCs seem markedly improved. They adjusted and fixed a lot of these quirks with the AI and NPCs. The police response feels way better. Performance is smoothed out significantly to the point where I could actually see myself playing this no issues with everything fully maxed out, which is awesome. Just in general, the game feels way better. Like, way better. I could actually see myself going through and playing through again in this state. This feels good enough where I could go through and have a good time, I think. New guns, new cosmetic items, new ways of approaching everything. Way better. Are there still some issues? Sure. Like, I still think, you know, the main story issues will be frustrating. In terms of overall experience, like, I could see myself loading up the save that I was at before I hit the last mission and just going through all of the side content, all of the romances, everything, because now there's so little friction in that experience. That's what this is meant to do, I think. All told, PS5, I think pretty good. We had some issues, minor issues, but it was pretty good. PC, 2 thumbs up. Really impressive. Granted, this is a high-end PC, 5950X 3080. We're running off of an M.2 SSD, 64 gigs of RAM. Like, this is about as powerful a PC as you could probably expect to have in most consumers' game rooms, but I'm pleasantly surprised. Like, I did not expect to have positive feelings like this at the end of this experiment. I was fully braced to just be kind of depressed again and feel sad and lame. And you guys know me, I don't tend to be overly positive about things if there's holes to poke in it, but I'm actually thoroughly impressed. Well done, CDPR. Well done. We'll see what you've got coming next, because I think there's still work to be done. I'd still like to see a big expansion and DLC. I want to understand what the hell that ending is about. The one with the weird space hotel. I want to know all of that. There's still work to do, but this is pretty impressive. I'll give you credit. This was good. But that's it from me. If you enjoyed the video, again, make sure to like it. That really does help. It makes or breaks the performance of these videos. Subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified of every new video that goes live. And let me know what you'd like to see me cover next in the comment section below. I'm always looking for feedback. And of course, the most obvious call out would be join me over on Twitch, because you can watch these videos get filmed live. We would love to have you. You can hang out with me and we can talk while we actually film these videos and do them live. All of these people you see on chat have been a huge help. Chupamar has been helping me realize and recognize a lot of the cool improvements that they've made. It's really cool to see. So if you want to be in the video, come out and hang with us. It's always good to chill. I'd love to see you. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. You guys are wonderful. Hugs and kisses. I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe. I appreciate you.